woman, I've had about enough of her. She wants to be like a member of the squad. She thinks of herself like an AOC. She talks like, she's from the hood. Meanwhile, she grew up in a nice family. She didn't talk like this 3 years ago. 3 years ago, she sounded like you and I sound in this conversation. Like, I'm really excited to be going to Congress. I can't wait to get started on my new job. And now she's like, we need to smack him in the head, bitch. Like, what do you, we have videotape. Why are you talking like that? No one believes this bullshit. And now she's graduated to acting like a thug. So congratulations. Your term in the U.S. Congress is going really well. Swimmingly.
Be honest, nobody's debating Jasmine Crockett tonight. The timeline is rolling its eyes and saying, that's not leadership, that's theater. You clicked because you saw Megyn Kelly's name.
Okay, Matt, that was 3 years ago. The ones of her just sounding like a normal person talking. 3 years, it's not like that was 20 years, but then she moved to Mississippi for all that time. That was 3 years ago. She sounded like a totally normal person.
Next to Crockett's and the word torched. And yes, that moment happened. Kelly lit into the freshman congresswoman with the kind of precision that turns a viral clip into a narrative. That's the core event. And it matters right now.
An exclusive behind-the-scenes look at Texas Congresswoman and liberal firebrand Jasmine Crockett. The Post spoke with several sources who paint a picture of a Crockett no one in their right or left mind would really want to work for. The Insider said they feel like Crockett cares more about being an influencer than working for her constituents. And as one put it, quote, is laying around her apartment, won't come into the office, and is really just indifferent to staff and will scream at them. Crockett reportedly rents a luxury vehicle every week, which is weird, and a staffer is tasked with basically being her personal chauffeur. She reportedly rides in the back like her employee is the
now because moments like this don't just trend, they harden into reputation. In a town where perception can outrun policy, one brutal segment can close more doors than a dozen floor speeches can open. I've watched the clips, cross-checked the context, and pulled the threads you probably felt but couldn't name yet.
As far as Jasmine goes, I researched her, and it's never good when I do that. I found out she's single. She's 43. She's never been married. And I'm trying to figure out what makes her tick. I think I can set her up with someone.
Oh, my God.
I know a guy in D.C., Emily. He's white. Hopefully that's not a problem, but he will make her happy. And maybe then she will not hate.
Here's the play-by-play and the fallout you didn't see coming. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you'll hear the exact scene where volume tried to masquerade as victory and backfired. The line of attack that flipped Crockett's supposed.
I'm dying to ask you about Jasmine Crockett.
Oh boy.
She seems like a nightmare.
She's delightful.
What's that like to work against her?
So she serves on oversight committee with me, and she's on my Doge subcommittee.
Great.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one of the funny things was we were having a committee hearing on oversight, and it was really late at night. And I was really irritated because I'm always like, why can't we work normal work hours like regular people, 8 to 5? I don't know what's wrong with Congress that we're always doing crazy things at 9, 10, 11, 2 a.m. under Nancy Pelosi. So we're on the oversight committee, and she is running off her mouth, and I shot at her about her massively huge fake eyelashes.
Yeah, this made news.
Strengths into weaknesses and the quiet machinery behind the scenes that loves loud faces, right up until the minute those faces stop being useful. Quick proof that we're going deeper than the dunk. Note how the same hearings that produced viral sound bites also
Clinton administration.
Please calm down.
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise and then
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
He said, Jasmine, what you have to realize is that if you are really going to make change, it's not going to be in the Texas House. He said, you did a great job playing defense, but you have a chance to play offense. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body.
Meanwhile, you pointed out, but like her high school looks like a
produced receipts that undercut them. Notice how a carefully crafted persona buckles when old footage and hometown facts are held up side by side. And pay attention to how allies go silent when a brand becomes a liability. That's the roadmap. First the noise trap, then the narrative shift, then the receipts. Persona versus provenance, outrage as a business model, identity armor as a shield.
We were having a committee hearing on oversight, and it was really late at night. And I was really irritated because I'm always like, why can't we work normal work hours like regular people, 8 to 5? I don't know what's wrong with Congress that we're always doing crazy things at 9, 10, 11, 2 a.m. under Nancy Pelosi. So we're on the oversight committee, and she is running off her mouth, and I shot at her about her massively huge fake eyelashes.
Yeah, this made news.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I said something along the lines of like, well, you can't read it because of your face.
And the Washington math that punishes spectacle when it can't deliver substance. Let's start where the cameras love to linger. The performance. Picture a late-night committee grind. The kind where staffers are running on vending machine calories and everyone's patience is past empty. Crockett leans into the moment like it's a stage, not a chamber. The gestures get bigger, the cadence sharpens, the volume climbs. It feels triumphant in the clip. Context. Hearings reward theater because algorithms reward theater. Application. In real time, that kind of heat can hijack a news cycle and make an audience feel like the loudest person must have the sharpest point. Framing. But in the building where votes are counted and amendments are negotiated, the decibel level doesn't move the needle. Relationships do. Here's the gap between expectations and reality. The public expects thunder to mean lightning is coming. Washington waits to see if any rain shows up at all. And when Kelly zeroed in, she didn't argue the ideology. She argued the operating system. Her case was simple and cutting. Confusing noise with power isn't power, it's a tell. If you have the votes, you don't need the volume. That's why this first point lands hard. It collapses the hero shot. It turns the table pounding into a concession that the table is all you have. Now the strongest point, because it's the one that lingers after the clip ends, the narrative shift. The real damage wasn't a zinger about style. It was the framing that redefined Crockett from rising star to overexposed understudy. In DC, labels are currency. Serious. Workhorse. Bridge builder. Or the kiss of death. Unserious. Kelly's segment didn't just criticize. It issued a new label that opponents can quote and allies can't easily refute. Context. The city runs on whispers that become consensus. Application. The next time Crockett walks into a negotiation, the unspoken question is no longer, what does she want? But is this a real offer or another clip? Framing. When the gap between expectations and reality becomes the story. When the brand screams heavyweight and the record reads featherweight, the town adjusts. Doors crack a little less. Invitations thin. The camera still comes, but the respect doesn't. And that is the high-impact hit because political momentum is a fragile thing. Once it flips, you spend twice as much energy to get half as far to. Let's circle back to how we got here, because the breadcrumbs matter. Kelly's critique threaded several strands that, together, pull the persona loose. First strand, the curated toughness. Crockett's on-camera voice has drifted over time. Earlier footage shows one register, later footage leans into a different performance. That happens to a lot of public figures. Media pressure can distort anybody's delivery. But Kelly and her guests contrasted the tapes to argue the shift wasn't evolution, it was costume. Context. There's a difference between finding your voice and testing which voice trends. Application. When the audience senses a put-on, every future moment gets reinterpreted as a bit. Framing. Character is a bank account. You make deposits with consistency. If the deposits look counterfeit, the account freezes when you need it most. Second strand. The machine. Even critics will admit the party apparatus loves a compelling face and a fierce clip. It's oxygen for donors and dopamine for base voters. Kelly's contention was that Crockett's ascent says more about the machine's appetite than the members' accomplishments. Context. Every party wants a closer in committee, someone who will swing hard when the cameras are live. Application. If you're elevated for your heat more than your wins, you end up with a highlight reel and a thin legislative folder. Framing. Expectations versus reality again. The expectation is new fighter on the field. The reality is designated hitter for the internet innings. That mismatch isn't a crime. It's just a ceiling. Third strand. The identity armor. Kelly called out the tactic where criticism gets reframed as a personal attack based on race or gender rather than a challenge to arguments. Let's be precise here, because precision matters. Identity and lived experience are real and relevant. But when every policy critique is thrown back as prejudice, you shrink the room for actual debate, and you drain your own credibility. Context. Voters can hold two ideas at once. They can value representation and demand competence. Application. If you default to the shield, you train people to stop listening. Framing. The long game rewards persuasion. Grievance can mobilize a moment, but it rarely builds a coalition that lasts. Fourth strand. The hypocrisy tripwire. This is where receipts hurt. It's one thing to preach dignity and inclusion. It's another to mock an opponent's disability with a cheap nickname in front of a cheering crowd. You don't need me to repeat the slur to feel the dissonance. You already know it when you hear it. Context. The standard you set is the standard you're judged by. Application. Moments like that don't just give your critics ammo. They make your supporters wince. Framing. If the brand is moral clarity, the reality can't keep rhyming with the very cruelty you claim to fight. Fifth strand. Thin outputs, thick optics. Kelly's blade cut deepest when she asked, effectively, show the work. Not the clips, not the quips. The bills moved, the coalitions assembled, the concessions extracted. Context. Freshman members aren't expected to rewrite the code in a year, but the serious ones can point to deliverables that don't need a hashtag. Application. When your portfolio reads like a press kit, your opponents don't have to beat you. They just have to read you aloud. Framing. In a Congress that increasingly rewards theater, the only counterweight is an outcomes resume. Without it, your fame becomes your foil. Now, watch how these strands tie into behavior. The more Crockett leaned into viral moments, the more she seemed to treat committees like content studios, smirks for the camera, barb for the feed, clip for the timeline. There's a market for that. But markets are fickle. Context. Outrage ages like milk. Application. The audience that cheers a takedown on Tuesday scrolls past you by Friday unless you feed them something bigger than the dunk. Framing. Attention is a rental, not a deed. If you don't invest it in something that compounds, policy wins, cross-aisle capital, district deliverables, it vanishes the second the algorithm wants a new main character. Here's a pattern interrupt, because it's easy to think this is only about Crockett, and it isn't. Swap the names and the warning stands. If you build a public life on spectacle, you owe the public something sturdier than spectacle. That's the contrarian twist Megyn Kelly exploited. She didn't have to be fair to be effective. She only had to be legible. And her legible story was this: the louder the show, the thinner the substance. Agree or disagree. Once that line lands, it becomes the lens. And once the lens exists, every future scene gets graded on it. Did she add votes? Did she win a concession? Did she make new allies? If not, the clip is just noise in a world that's already drowning in it. Open loop, staff culture. The image people project on camera often echoes behind it. Reports and anecdotes bubbled up about diva behavior, frosty corridors, aides treated like props rather than partners. Let's be cautious. Every office has bad days, and every high-pressure shop frays at the edges. But in the court of reputation, perception is testimony.